talking about having drama in your stories. Now, we're also going to be talking about doing stories that are solely dramas, because as you know, that is a genre. It's just drama. However, you can have drama in your stories and incorporate these same rules to make more drama in your stories and make more tension and enticing action in your stories without having your story be just a drama. So these are good rules to learn either direction. All right. So, first thing that we want to talk about is fully developed characters. It's really hard to create drama that feels real in your story if your characters are just sort of developed. If they're just like, hi, I'm a cardboard cutout of a leprechaun, that's pretty boring. Whereas if you have a character that is a leprechaun and has all these quirks and tweaks and has a funky name and, you know, has a wife and 3 kids or something like that, that is going to make it far more interesting because they're a fully developed character than if you just go, hi, I'm leprechaun number 1. Like, that's not going to make you feel for them. And then when they're like, oh no, my wife, and you're like, you had a wife? Instead of causing drama, that's just going to cause your characters confusion. You want to make sure that your characters have backstory, they have relationships, they have depth, they have a reason for why they feel the way they feel. Do they really hate the color green? Why do they hate the color green? Is it because the last time they went outside and saw a really, really green tree, it fell on someone they loved? I don't know, that seems really extra dramatic. But point being, maybe there's a reason you don't like something. There was actually this really fascinating book that I enjoyed. I cannot remember the title, but basically it was about a girl who had been a clone of this couple's daughter. And the couple's daughter had hated swimming because of the fact that when she was 4, she fell backwards in a pool and she'd inhaled while underwater. And so as a result, that was very scary. Aspirating on water is very scary and not fun at all. And so as a result, she hated swimming, she hated the water, she didn't want to be anywhere near the water. Then when the daughter died and they received the clone of her, trying to re-raise her, they took her to the pool thinking that she'd have a very similar experience, and they wanted to be able to be there for her that time because last time they'd been distracted and it hadn't gone as well. So they were like, this time we'll be there for her, it'll all go exactly the same. She inhaled before she went under the water. As a result, she ended up actually liking water and became a swimmer. Even though she had the exact same genetics and had pretty much the exact same life up until that point. She changed based on just one small action, and that one small action can more fully develop your character into someone totally different. You can have the same origin story and still develop an entirely different character. That's why it's funny when you have things like Studio C, where they have the one story cafe, you know, where they're like, give me a story that has this and this and that, and it has this and this and that. Yes, and then it basically seems like the same story. That's because at its core, there are a lot of stories that are very similar, but then they are taken in different directions, and that's what makes them unique, is because they took the seed and helped it grow to be something entirely different, even though it started from the same seed. All right. Next thing we're going to talk about is drama is best if you answer the question, what happens if? Now, the reason that this is so good for drama is because of the fact that there are lots of things that could cause drama in our lives, but may or may not. So for example, if you said, what happens if you find out that your boyfriend is secretly a dragon? Don't ask me how this works. It's the first thing that popped into my head. What happens then? Does the person go, oh my gosh, I love dragons, this is so cool? Or do they go, oh my gosh, I hate dragons, my mother was eaten by a dragon, I shun you. You're the worst. Like, how does that go? That is going to, again, drastically change the answer. So it's important to ask, what happens if to your character? What happens if to your world, too? What happens if your character lost someone that they really, really care about? Is that the start of their villain origin story and revenge? Or is it the story of them moving on and living through grief? Or what happens if this isn't their villain origin story or a tale about moving through grief? What happens if the person passing away is them and their origin story towards becoming a hero and defeating the villain. You know, there's so many different directions you can go with this. It's important to have an open mind when it comes to your characters. Don't force them into a certain box just because you want them to be. Look at your character and go, okay, you are who you are. Now, how do I make you do what I want? By manipulating the world around you. Instead of saying, you will do this to your character. No, don't be a dictator to your character. Readers can feel when you're a dictator to your character and you're just like, you will fall in love with this other character. And the main character's like, but I don't want to. That's when you cause problems and you become a dictatorial writer and people go, well, this doesn't feel right. This just feels frustrating. You don't want to be a dictator. You want to be a facilitator. And so as a result, you say, okay, I really want you to fall in love with this person. What would make you fall in love with this person? And then they say, well, I really like someone who likes piano. And then you go to the other person and you say, hey, you know what would make you really cool? Piano. So you got to work with your characters a little bit. Treat them like they're real people and have real, genuine choices and give them choices. Encourage them with the world that's around them. All right. So, of course, any good drama and any good action story needs obstacles. So what is getting in the way? What is preventing them from that goal? Is it because the person thinks of someone that they really cared about, like their long-lost grandfather, and that's why they don't want to learn piano? They're like, I refuse to learn piano because it would make me sad, because it would make me think of my grandfather. Maybe that's why. And then the love interest is like, well, I'm not interested in you because I planned on meeting you when you were playing on the piano, and now you don't know how to play piano. The whole story is thrown off. So what gets in the way of your goals, and ultimately how can those goals be overcome? For example, with the story kind of that I'm making up on the spot here, what if they said, okay, it makes me really sad that I lost my grandfather and that he learned how to play piano, but what if I learn how to play my grandmother's favorite song to make her happy? Then you have the character have another motivation that gets them through, and it develops character growth. Things that get in your way can actually really help facilitate your character growing and becoming someone even better and so much deeper, and really help with that character development we talked about at the beginning. All right. Next thing we're going to talk about is diving into emotions. So I know this is hard. I know that you're like, well, my character is really, really depressed and has a lot of bad things in their life. You don't exactly want to be like, yes, let's dive right into that and, just have that become my new life. No, I can understand that. None of us want to be like, yeah, I really want to imagine what my life would be if I was an orphan right now. No, generally that's not what we want. But what I mean when I say diving into emotions is thinking about, what if this was happening to me? How would I be feeling? And do some research on it too. There are lots of times where people think, oh, I would feel this way, but then when they do their research, it's like, oh, okay, that's actually this kind of thing and this kind of thing. And then there's the stages of grief if you're doing a grief cycle, or if you're doing like anger, how do people lash out in anger, and how do certain personality types treat other people when they're angry. That is going to show you, diving deep into those emotions, what your characters will become, who they're going to be. Because ultimately, it's going to change who they are depending on how they react to different situations. There are some people who, they trip over someone's shoes in the hallway and they go, oh my gosh, you always leave your shoes here all the time. And they start screaming at you. Some of you might have siblings like that. Or you might have a sibling who trips over the shoes in the hallway and then just kind of lies there and sighs in frustration. And is like, why would you put your shoes there? But doesn't yell, doesn't scream, but is just clearly frustrated. Those are two entirely different types of people, entirely different types of ways of handling the same situation with the same type of emotion. speaking of which, when you dive into these emotions, really think about what kind of person you want to make your character out to be. And make sure that if you have siblings in a book, that they aren't too similar. They can be similar, but they can't be too similar, because siblings are drastically different at the end of the day. Even if we're all raised similarly, we all have our own unique personality. And that's going to make us all very different. Heck, one of my favorite TV shows recently, it was actually kind of a funny way of looking at it, because one of them is a complete math genius, and he's constantly like, but math. And his brother is like, but don't die. Because he's a cop, and they're trying to help solve crime and whatnot. But the guy's constantly being like, it's fine if I go look at the crime scene and nearly get shot. And he's like, no, it's not fine. So they're very similar personalities in the regard that they both want to solve crime, they both want to help people, but they are drastically different in the way they handle it. One is very cautious and very collected, and the other is very much like, as long as I get the data so I can do my math, so I can predict the next crime, it's fine. And he doesn't really think of his own welfare too much. All right. Dark versus light. This is very important for any story, but especially a drama. If you're having a very dark, dramatic story, you want to make sure you have some light in there. Whether it's a subplot of romance or a character who makes a lot of goofy jokes. Either way, you want something to lighten the mood. Most people can't read just dark, 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 darkness, dark, dark, dark. We don't want to read that. We're just like, oh, I'm depressed and I hate this. However, if you have a dark story, people actually enjoy that if you break it up with some levity, break it up with some romance, break it up with some hope. Have some light spots in your dark novel. Or alternatively, people also don't like happy sunshine, happy sunshine, happy sunshine, happy sunshine, happy. It's like, okay, aggressively happy, stay away from me. You want to make sure that if you have a happy sunshine story that's like 99% good things are happening, like for example, a Hallmark movie, the quintessential example of happiness and joy and nothing ever goes wrong, they still have some dark moments to help balance it out, where maybe you don't think they're going to get together, or maybe they get together with someone else and they don't think they're right for each other. You know, those dark moments in the midst of all that light fluffiness helps us feel more realistic. So it's important to balance it out. So I would say, look at your manuscript, whether it's a short story, novella, or a novel, and say, what is the primary theme of this? Is it happy sunshine or darkness? Whichever one it is, make sure that you include the other as often as you can, while still maintaining the overall theme. Alright, I try not to drop this marker. So, next thing we're going to talk about that causes drama is trauma, because they rhyme. That's actually not why, but that is a thing. That can be the case. Because if one character has had a previous person die before, let's say they were in a gang and they got in a big fight and they died, then that means that the next person who they're friends with, who is in a gang, they're going to go, I don't even want to be around you because you could die and then I'd be sad, and so I can't be friends with you if you're going to be in a gang anymore, drama. But that's because of trauma. So a lot of drama can be caused by previous traumatic events that are causing us to react in bad ways. Heck, even in modern times, we have a lot of that in just everyday situations. Where, let's say, I had a really bad experience. I'm not saying I did, but actually, this is a good example. I had a really bad experience, actually a real example, with wasps when I was a little girl. I went to go sit on my favorite yellow swing in my preschool teacher's yard, and a wasp stung me twice. And I was very upset. I was like, no, I was going to go enjoy this swing, and instead I'm just in pain because this stupid wasp stung me. It stung me twice. Like, it couldn't even do me the decency of just one sting. It just kept stinging me. And so that trauma made it so that I actually hated anything that flew in the air that wasn't a butterfly or a bird for a long time. I actually had a trauma response where anytime something buzzed near my ear, I would scream as a small child because I was worried it was another wasp. because of that trauma. And that caused a lot of drama because then my parents would be like, it was just a fly, or alternatively, it's just a bumblebee. Even if it stung you, it's only going to sting you once because it will then die. But I didn't understand that as a little kid. All I understand is Fingo buzz, ouch, because I was a preschooler. So trauma can definitely change the way you respond to things. If you have a bad experience, that can make it so that every time you experience that thing or something that reminds you of that thing, you then respond badly. Like in my case of screaming for no reason. So it's important to keep that in mind with your characters. If you have a traumatic backstory for them, make sure you actually include their genuine reactions to things that might trigger them, because there might be things that could trigger them. Alright. Next point, raising the stakes. This is very important in any drama novel, but it is also important in your regular action novel. If you have someone who's like, I need to learn magic because the world is going to end in 2 years. Well, it's going to be a really boring 2 years. So you might want to raise the stakes and say, oh no, the world's going to end in 2 years, and now the villain has kidnapped my brother, or something like that. Now you need to learn magic even faster in order to go save your brother, right? And so as a result of that, raising those stakes is going to make your story 10 times more interesting and 10 times more action-packed. People are going to be sitting on the edge of their seats going, does he learn magic in time and save his brother? Or is his brother going to die? What's going to happen? So if you're noticing that your readers are getting bored, remember to raise the stakes. Now, one caveat I will say with this is don't raise the stakes too much, because if you're constantly raising the stakes, that's when you get to those TV shows that are like, there was a supervillain, and now there's a worse supervillain, and now there's a worse supervillain, and it's like, oh my gosh, stop. There can be such a thing as raising the stakes too much. So you just want to make sure that you're not doing it too often. When you raise the stakes, it is for a purpose, not just because you want people to keep paying attention. That's a good reason, but not enough. There are ways to get people to pay attention without just raising the stakes. All right. Next, we're going to talk about dialogue. So, because of the fact that dialogue is a crucial part of the way we react and interact with our world, it is also incredibly crucial to drama and writing drama, because like me screaming when I heard buzzing next to my ear, that is a form of dialogue, because then my parents had to be like, it's okay, it's not a wasp, and that's dialogue, right? And so as a result, I would highly recommend, this is going to sound creepy, but it's not creepy, I promise. If you're at a public school, listen in on other people's conversations briefly. If you're at a park or at the store with your parents, listen into people's conversations around you. Why? Because that's going to teach you how to make authentic, real, genuine sounding dialogue. Because you only know the dialogue that you, your friends, and your family has. And maybe a few other people like me. But aside from that, you don't really know what dialogue sounds like from random other people who are nothing like you. So if you're writing characters that are nothing like you, you then have to find a source somewhere, right? And a good source and a good way to do that genuinely is to look around you and listen as closely as you possibly can. Now, you might hear some weird conversations. I did this as a writing exercise in high school and listened to someone talk about different colors and flavors of vape. That was special. But, so you might hear some weird things, just a warning. But in some ways it was very educational, because I was like, this is what a group of vaping teenagers sounds like. I didn't know that. I have learned new things now. Will I ever write about vaping teenagers? Probably not, but I still learned new things. So no matter where you are and what you're doing, and even if you are homeschooled or don't go to public school, like I said, you can listen at the store, you can listen at the park, you can go to the carnival and listen to people. I was at the carnival the other day and I overheard a parent and a child talking to each other. And that was very good for learning about parent and child dialogue, because that is going to be different too. And all parents are going to sound different too, right? yes, is it cool to write parents in your novels that sound like your parents? Yeah, but you don't want all the parents in your novel to sound like your parents, because then they don't feel real. You need them to all sound unique. And so it's important to listen to other people. So, moving on with that, it's also kind of cool when you do read about dialogue and you can make notes of it, or watch TV and make notes of their dialogue. But I will say, the more genuine conversations you can listen to that aren't pre-written, the better you're going to craft your own dialogue. Because that is going to be far easier to learn from than something that is staged. Funnily enough. Alright. Next we're going to talk about secrets. So, everyone has secrets. You have a secret, and you have a secret, and you have a secret, and the door has a secret. Actually, I don't know. But point being that everyone has secrets. Even if it's not like necessarily that they keep it from everyone, but maybe they only told one person and it was their best friend, or maybe they only told their sister, or maybe they only told their dad. Everyone has a secret that they're keeping from someone else. And why? That is going to cause a lot of drama when that secret comes out, right? When they're keeping secrets from their parents and then all of a sudden they find out about it, that causes problems, right? Or alternatively, when one of the parents is told something by the child and they haven't told the spouse, and then the spouse finds out they were keeping a secret from them about their child, they're going to be like, hey, what the heck? And that's going to cause problems too. Secrets are a part of everyday life, though. Unfortunately, people feel the need for privacy, and there's nothing wrong with that. What the problem is when people find out those secrets and then react badly to having been kept in the dark. Whether it's in frustration or sadness or betrayal, there are lots of different things that you can feel when secrets come out, and all characters have secrets. Don't say like they're the most genuine person in the world and they have no secrets. No one exists who is like that. And if they do, they probably still have a secret even they are keeping from themselves in that case, which is in some ways even scarier. You can't be in denial of your own stuff and keeping a secret from yourself, which sounds controversial, but it's actually not. When you are in denial of certain feelings and certain emotions, that's still keeping a secret from yourself. Long story short, if you're having a hard time with your characters and making them feel real and making the drama feel real, ask them, so hey character, what's your biggest secret? And who have and haven't you told? And that will make things so much more interesting for your novel. Alright. Next, avoid melodrama. So, melodrama. Melodrama is when it feels like the character is overreacting to tiny things for no reason. So, for example, some people thought I was being melodramatic when I screeched as a small child when I heard buzzing in my ear, but I wasn't being melodramatic, it was because of trauma. So that's one thing I will say, is if your character's overreacting because of a traumatic event, make sure that you depict that and describe that and make sure that the audience knows that. Because if the audience doesn't know what the trauma is, they're going to think they're overreacting and they're going to be like, oh, drama queen, and move on. They won't care about your character anymore. Whereas if you say, hey, this is because of this, then the reader goes, oh, I feel for that character. You know, that's got to be really hard. If you have them reacting badly for no reason, for example, if I'd never been stung before and didn't even know the buzzing bug stung, and then I screeched when a buzzing bug came near me, that's being overdramatic. That's when you have melodrama. And you want to avoid that melodrama. It's kind of like in those really cheesy movies that like people make fun of, where it's like, I'm not going to invite you to the prom, and they're like, and they go off and they're immediately sobbing, and you're like, okay, like I'm pretty sure your whole life isn't ruined, breathe. Whereas if this was someone that they thought they were going to spend their life with, or they admitted that they loved, and then they're like, I don't love you, now that would be a more appropriate reaction, you know, to be like, I spent this whole time being in love with you and you don't love me back. That hurts. That's gonna totally every right to cry. But if they're just like, hey, I'm not inviting you to the prom, and we were just friends, so there's not even emotions involved here. Like, why are we sobbing? Like, okay, disappointment maybe, but no need to sob until your eyes fall out. Like, that's too much. So with melodrama, just think about what is a reasonable reaction to these things. And some things do warrant a larger reaction. Death of someone you love. Absolutely. Cry your eyeballs out. Totally, that makes sense. Or alternatively, keep it all inside because you're one of those strong and silent types. There can be those too. But it's okay to cry, especially if there's something sad happening. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying don't have your character cry because they dropped their favorite pink bead on the floor. Maybe that's a bit much. Keep it real, keep it within the realm of possibility. All right. Now, other things that can enhance your drama: jealousy, fear, and competition. Now, the reason that these can fuel drama is because they fuel drama in real life, right? Jealousy of someone else being with the person that you have a crush on. Jealousy of someone else having everything that you ever wished for. There's actually a comic book that I've been reading recently that the whole reason this one guy didn't like this one girl is because her parents could afford to send her to art school and loved that she wanted to be an artist, and he wanted to be a musician, and his dad threw his piano in the garbage and said, get a real job. And so as a result, he hated her because he was like, you have all of the things that I want and you don't even care. And so he was very jealous of her, and it caused a lot of drama because of his own life problems that caused him to be jealous. Then there's also fear. If you're afraid of losing something, that can absolutely cause drama. You've probably seen this in lots of cartoons and lots of live action movies, where someone's like, I don't want you to get hurt, or in the case of the Incredibles movie, remember when, if you've seen it recently, Mr. Incredible goes to Mrs. Incredible and he's like, I can't lose you again, because he'd almost lost them and he thought they were dead. And so as a result, he started freaking out and being like, you have to stay behind because I'm afraid of losing you. I don't want to lose you. Fear can absolutely motivate people to be afraid and to be scared and to be irrational. Last one, competition. I don't know about you, but competition can definitely cause some drama. When people are like, the treasure's mine, and they pull out a sword. That's gonna cause some drama. Or alternatively, competition where it's like, I'm in love with this person, but they are competing for the same internship as me, and if they get the internship, then I don't get the job, and if I don't get the job, then I lose my apartment, or something dramatic like that. Then it makes it so it's like, will they, give in to love, or will they, decide to ruin it all for the competition? Like there can be drama there because it causes a lot of problems when people compete with each other too intensely. All right, any questions about writing drama? If no questions, then I can just turn off the video and we can just write to our heart's content. No question. Okay, cool. Then I'm just going to give a quick last promotion. Since I will not be here next week, but we will still have Writers Club next week. One of my good friends who is writing her own novel right now actually will be coming and teaching the class. So don't worry about that. She will be great. Her name's Nicole. She, when you see her, she's great. So simply feel free if you come next week to ask and be like, are you Nicole? Because I'll probably be. You know what Nicole looks like. Yeah, I know Nicole. So if she's here next week and she's talking to her, it's probably Nicole. So not this Wednesday, but next Wednesday is when the short story contest entries are due for the summer contest. If you are planning on entering in the summer contest, please have those in by that day, preferably the day before, just because of the fact that I don't want you to accidentally miss out. just because of the fact that, you run up to the library and we lock the doors and you're like, no, causing your own form of drama in your life. I don't want that to happen to you. So if you can, try to turn it in next Tuesday if you can. But if you absolutely have to, turn it in next Wednesday. With that being said, make sure that with turning it in next Wednesday, that you get it in before 8:45. Why? Because we close at 9 and they start shooing people out of the building and start locking the building at 8:45. So you want to get it in before 8:45. So thank you guys so much, and I hope you enter. If you do not, that's okay. I hope you enter into our other contests. The scary story contest, I will be one of the ones in charge of grading, so that should be fun. And then we also have the first chapter contest in November, if you want to enter for that. And then we have the Cozy Mystery Contest coming this Christmas. That one will actually be due much earlier. It will be due on December 22nd because of the fact that we are going to be closed for the holidays and whatnot. So I want to make sure that you guys turn it all in before we close for the holidays. And that I can pick it up and have them all before the holidays start. So, thank you guys so much. I'm going to turn off the video now. Let's see, where's the button?